Welcome back, everybody, to the Success Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Daya Naef, and today we have in the studio Lynn Clyde. And Lynn Clyde is the principal consultant at RSCG Consulting. And she does something that we were just talking about over the show. I understand, but maybe not everybody understands what the need for a risk management and compliance consultant would be. So Lynn, tell us about your very interesting and niched consulting service.
Thank you so much, Daya, and I appreciate you having me on the podcast and getting the opportunity to talk to your audience. So I spent, as you said, 25 years in the financial services industry, which is very, very highly regulated. And on the back of a number of crises, be it the 2008 financial crisis or prior to that, if you think about Enron and WorldCom, there was a lot of emphasis put on financial institutions having good, strong risk management frameworks and compliance programs. So RCG is really about risk management, compliance, and governance. But when I talk about risk management specifically, I think the first thing that often comes to mind for people is insurance. So if you hear an insurance broker, they talk about assessing the risk and the insurance, but that's not what I mean. So let me give you a background on what I do mean by that. We all practice risk management daily, right? So if you think about as a human being, the outcomes we want for our life, I think it's probably fairly consistently true that people want to be healthy, they want to be safe, and they want to have financial security. So every day we make decisions, right? I get in the car, I put on my seatbelts, I follow the speed limit. When I think about my own children, I try to have them not eat too many processed foods, wear a helmet when they bike, take them to their annual checkups. And when we think about our financial health, we plan and we save for our retirement, or it could be college tuition or taking care of an elderly parent. So that is managing risk in our personal lives to get the outcomes we want: health, safety, financial security. When you apply that in a business setting, risk management isn't really just a safeguard. It absolutely should be about enabling your strategy and your vision. It should be enabler to your growth, to your profitability. Does that resonate with you and your experience? Yeah.
It does, and I think as consultants, because I wear that hat as well, and I have for a while. I was even general counsel for a while. So thinking of those less sexy C-suite and roles, how do we really show that we're not a cost center, and really show that we're a good ROI when we come up with something like risk management?
Yeah. And I think that's sometimes the biggest hurdle. You're dead on, right? For whether it's audit, whether it's risk management, compliance, your counsel, how do you show that you really are helping the ROI and the bottom line of a business? So if I take the seat or the view, right, from the CEO or business owner, could be a nonprofit executive director, regardless of the size of that business, when you look down on all those component parts, there is a lot going on. And there is a lot of different types of risks and issues. And if I'm the business owner, I cannot be the person that's looking behind every corner and picking up every piece of paper and checking what's underneath it. That's not your role. So from that view, you're looking at, you have operational risks in your business, right? How efficient and effective are the processes? Where are the operational losses coming from, and what's the root cause of those? When you think about being a general counsel, your contracts, do you have the right provisions in there to protect yourself, right? But then there's a whole suite of technology risks. So are you working off of antiquated, end of life tech? On the flip side of that, are you leveraging automation? Are you leveraging AI, which I know is a topic sort of near and dear to you? Like, are you using those tools? And then data, which is just such a powerful source and such a powerful asset these days. Is your data protected? And equally importantly, is your client's data protected? So that's operational and technology. Then you've got your financial risks. Do you really have confidence in that cash flow forecast? How do you know that that's accurate? Allocation is another thing I think about a lot. So if your administrative overhead, to your point, your general counsel, your things, your business space, your facilities, if you're not allocating that properly across your products and services, you really don't know what's profitable and what's not profitable. So that's a really important piece of the financial puzzle. And lastly, I would say strategic risks. So is everyone rowing in the same direction, right? Is everyone aligned on strategy? And are you, as the CEO, are you sort of allocating, whether it's time, whether it's budget, whether it's human capital, are you allocating it to those things that have the greatest value to the business? And from that seat, if you don't have the data and the tools to understand those risks and what's going on, that mental load is exhausting and it's scary. And you don't know, are you following all the rules and requirements that you're supposed to be adhering to? Are you making decisions with accurate, informed information that's going to move your business forward? So that's what all this infrastructure is about. It should be about helping the leader of the organization understand where the risks are, where the exposures are, and also which ones to not worry about. No is sort of one of the most important words in the English language, right? We can't do everything all the time and be everything to everyone. So, how do you know what you should say no to and what you must take action on?
Yeah, there's opportunity cost and how to make, as CEOs and you're right there. You're speaking my language. A lot of times we're looking at all the different opportunities, and people don't come up with these things until there's an incident, and then the opportunities are limited. So things like you said, like facilities, it's like, should we renew our long-term commercial lease? Should we look for a new space? And sometimes you just renewed it and then you didn't realize you're going to have a walkout, and people are going to be leaving the firm. And next thing, and you've just, it's like, okay, if you'd taken a temperature maybe on your staff or your team, then you would have known we need a different facility space. Or if you knew you were going to merge and bring in a whole nother practice, then you would have said, okay, we need to keep a bigger space or get a bigger space. And I think it's all that forecasting that people just don't think about.
Yeah, and I think we tend to, especially as you get to smaller business owners, right? You're just sort of hoping the bad thing won't happen, right? But the reality is, we want to help our clients build their business on a solid foundation so they can stand the test of time, but also the weather the storm. Because to your point about the walkout example, right? It's not if there's going to be a storm, it's when the storm is going to come. And how ready and prepared you're going to be for that. And I mean, you don't need to look much further than the nonprofit world this year and think about federal funding. And that was a storm that most people didn't see coming, right? But were you an organization that had diversified funding? You were using grants, federal, state, donations, whatever the case may be. Or were you an organization that had all your sort of eggs in one basket, and that basket was pulled out from under you? So that's really what it's about. And when we come in and we help provide like a methodical approach to assessing risk, what we want to get out of that is that business leader knows what their priorities are. They're very clear on where to spend their time, where to spend their money, where to spend their resources, and they're on the things that are the most valuable for the organization. They're getting a better night's sleep. They have a healthier balance sheet. You're getting the outcomes you want. That's the goal, and that's sort of the magic of risk management.
Yeah, I love that. The magic of risk management. I didn't know that would be in my vocabulary today, but it definitely makes.
I don't know that's wildly embraced by everyone, but
Yes, popcorn and cotton candy coming soon. Share with us a success story.
okay. Yeah, so I think a recent one, for example, worked with a nonprofit where they really needed to reset their strategy. So their strategy was built when they launched the organization about 7 years ago, hadn't been dusted off. And in that time, the scale of the organization really outpaced the operations. The board had become kind of disengaged and unclear on what their roles and responsibilities were. So this executive director really needed to bring everyone back to the table, get some alignment on strategy, get clarity on priorities, and also get board support, obviously, to spend some money on some of those priorities. So we worked with them to do a simple sort of risk assessment process that then the board could see the methodology, the steps that were taken. This wasn't just Daya saying this is the number one important thing to me. There was some science behind it and some structure behind it. And we were able to get the board on board, if you will, right, and agree on what the next 1, 2, 3 year priorities should be for the organization. And then, of course, the overall benefit to that community was continue to deliver more and more services because there was more and more demand, and they needed to scale up to provide that.
Yeah, that's a very special talent, getting a board fully on board.
Yeah, it's not always easy, but yeah, and I think that's why data is important,
Yes.
right? I mean, I think that's, you've got to be able to back up the why.
Yeah, the accurate black and white with also being able to be a good storyteller and count on the mission and the emotion of the hey, why we're here to begin with.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do for fun?
I like to travel, although my daughters are 9 and 11, so my travel is probably a little bit less adventurous and less long flight wise these days. But right now, my side hustle, I say, in addition to running my own business, which is about a year and a half in the making, is I'm a part-time Uber driver this summer, just driving people to camp to and fro. So I don't know if we would call that fun necessarily. But like everyone, I'm juggling the priorities and doing what needs to get done. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be some bonding time. Yeah, I mentioned earlier I grew up in construction and riding around in the truck with my parents, my dad or my mom, whoever was driving the truck that day is pretty formidable of my growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, you and I are in some shared networking organizations. I do spend a lot of my time networking and I really enjoy that. And as someone who left a very big organization to start my own firm, it's very collegial too. Those are great opportunities to learn from others, socialize with other people, get best practices. I really enjoy and spending my time that way too.
Yeah, as fractionals, we get to work together on projects sometimes, and that's an extra bonus. So, okay. Well, how do people find you to learn more?
Yeah, so my website is so the RCG is risk compliance governance. So it's rcgcompliance.com. I'm also Lynn Clyde, available on LinkedIn, both with a business profile and myself. And you can just email me, lynn@rcgcompliance.com. And I'm happy to do 45 minutes sort of free consultation with anyone who just wants to kind of hear a little bit more about what risk management is and also give people some like easy, quick hits. Give you an example, like third party risk, right? That's a big growing issue for people. We're very interconnected in this world. You don't have to invest in a very expensive oversight program. If you're a small organization, set up a Google alert for those high risk vendors. Do they have negative press? Did they get fined? Did they have a data breach? There's quick and easy things you can do to keep your eye on the ball and not spend and invest heavily.
That's great, and that's a money savings right there. And money saved is money earned. So
Yes, great saying. Yeah.
wonderful. Well, thank you again for coming on,
Thank you, Daya.
and thank you everyone for listening. This has been another episode of the Success Partner Podcast. I'm your host, Daya Naef. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned.